What it is, this is again a spoiler review, a spoiler-filled review, so be warned. We have given you the heads up in advance. We did go and see Glass Onion. This is a movie written and directed by Rian Johnson. It is a sequel. It's a connected but not super connected sequel to Knives Out from 2019. Wesley is our resident Rian Johnson stan here. And he is here to tell us why this movie was fantastic. And by the way, I will say off the bat, I liked it. So before we get into it, the movie is about, basically a billionaire played by Edward Norton brings a bunch of his friends to an island so that they can solve a fake murder mystery where a real murder mystery actually comes to be known. And then you get to see Benoit Blanc solve the crime with the help of Andy, or we think Andy at that time, played by Janelle Monáe, and a lot of kind of really tight storytelling and pacing ensues, and there's some really good stuff in here. So off the bat, I'm going to ask you guys first, what did you think was the strongest aspect of this film?
The strongest aspect
Yes.
of it? Ooh, I'm not in the intellectual headspace
well, no, okay.
to
What,
even analyze it like that.
What part did you like the most?
Wesley, you go first.
So I would say the conception of the story and the way that it was told, the storytelling was masterfully done. The look of the movie, the craft of it, more so. Like, typically, you would want to hear somebody say the cast was amazing, but for me, the filmmaking, like
the
trumped all of
cinematography, it actually shocks me that She Said got like a wide release for theaters, which nobody's going to go and see. And this movie, which is absolutely beautifully shot, the cinematography on this movie is stunning.
Yeah.
And it lends itself to the scenery. They're in Greece.
Yep.
So the cinematography, and it is filmed pretty much entirely on this island. Once you get about 10 minutes into it, you're on this on-location house, which is just massive. It's a compound, right? And the cinematography is top-notch. So you think that those were the strongest aspects to it?
Like from every part of the craft of the making, outside of whether, like, the screenplay, obviously, in my opinion, wonderful. The cast wonderful, but just the look of it and just how it sucked me in 100%. Like,
look of the movie does a lot to help the pace, like help you stay connected to it. If it loses you with the pace, which luckily this movie did not do. This movie was masterfully paced, in my opinion. It did not have any downtime. You're on the hunt for one aspect of the story or another at all times. And to me, the strongest characters are Benoit LeBlanc, played by Daniel Craig, and Janelle Monáe's Andy, and she plays Andy and her sister, twins, with a really, really good performance. I would actually like to say that I consider this movie to be separate the art from the artist, the movie, because almost all of these actors are insufferable on Twitter. Yeah, they are like.
Why would you expect any different from actors on Twitter? I don't really have an issue doing that in the first place because I have to do it so often.
It's almost like that's how you cast them.
Well, yeah, no,
because of like the insights that both of you have on cinematography, I've been trying to notice the good parts, not just notice when things fall short of that standard recently. And I did notice that it was very nice to look at. And I didn't just rely on noticing flaws in it. But the cast definitely wasn't the strong suit, actually.
They weren't weak, but they weren't shining like they were in the last one.
And actually, the thing I liked most about the film, now that I think about it, is the time jump in the middle.
Well, that was jarring to me at first. There was no other
because
way to do that.
you walked out in the middle of that getting fleshed out, so that's probably why it was jarring to you. But I thought it was really well done, and I related to Brandy in the film because like I am just that illogical and like
Birdie.
Wait, what?
Birdie J.
Birdie J.
Oh, sorry, Birdie. Because like I had a difficult time following it along with her, and then found her relatable for that reason.
So the idea behind this movie is that Miles Braun brings all of his old friends to this island to solve a murder mystery. But basically, you find out that he has done something, and then he's bringing them there, and they're reaffirming their kind of relationship because he's funded or somehow benefited the career of all of these people that he calls his friends. It speaks a lot to kind of the fakeness of that world, and I think there's some commentary there that's fairly veiled. So we have obviously Daniel Craig is back as Detective Benoit LeBlanc, or Blanc, not LeBlanc. But I think that this is going to be a character that they're going to not franchise, but that's going to get. He's going to be the new Sherlock Holmes in America. In a way that I think they see him as a character that they can put into multiple situations and get a great performance out of him in a bunch of different ways, the same way that they do with Poirot.
The only issue I had with this
He's
character is his accent, because I find that like French, Louisiana, Cajun accent really off-putting.
Well, it felt
but
very
other
Kevin
than that,
Spacey
he
in House
was
of
kind of
Cards.
charming.
Yeah. Miles Braun, Edward Norton's great. He's not the person I would have suspected for this role, oddly enough, being that it's less, he does it more subdued at the beginning and it gets more ridiculous as it goes on. But the role of the kind of eccentric, selfish billionaire could have been done much more outlandish and comical. And I think that he showed some restraint there that I appreciated. That because there's a reveal later where Blanc basically says like he's an idiot. Yeah. Like and that only works if he's not being completely over the top in the beginning. Because if he's acting that way in the beginning, you're wondering why everyone else isn't more aware of how much of a moron this dude is.
I kind of like that this ends with him facing rebuke for being a bit of a climate utopian ideologue. Like he has this chemical compound from the ocean water
called clear,
that he calls clear with a K, and he learns along with the rest of them that it would like barbecue the earth if it were actually implemented, but he holds something over all of their heads so they would have to comply with his plan.
We've got Dave Bautista as Duke Cody with his
an MRA YouTuber / Twitch streamer.
In knowing how much of he's a TDS dude too, so he's like leaning into this role, and it fits with his body image. He's a former pro wrestler, and his impossibly hot girlfriend Whiskey, who looks like in my opinion, they said, Florence Pugh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She said, I'm busy. They said, Natalie Dormer, what are you doing? I'm busy. Yeah. Let's just find they use like a Morph Pro program to mix the two, and they found this young actress, Madeline Klein. We have Jessica Henwick as Peg, who is the assistant to... she is the assistant to Kate Hudson's Birdie J character. And then we have Claire DeBella, played by Katherine Hahn. Remember, if you've never seen the show Crossing Jordan, go watch the show Crossing Jordan. She was great in that. Who is she in a relationship with Leslie Odom's character? Are they together?
No, I don't think that
there was
was implied at all.
Who's Lionel? Also, if you want to see Leslie Odom in a great role, he plays a constitutionalist who fights, who hates government censorship and the anti-freedom movement in the show Person of Interest.
But
so
in this movie, he's an extremely forgettable scientist that I didn't even remember what his name was.
I felt, now this could just be me, I felt like they were scared to make him more flawed. I feel that way about it. Now, they leaned into the identity politics of it all. They talked about politics in this movie more than a few times. And I think that the casting was done to reflect that. And then we have Janelle Monáe as Andy, and what was the sister's name? Because that came in later. Helen and Andy Brand, and I believe that she is a standout performer in this. There are two very distinct personalities at work when you see her as Andy and then when you see her as Helen. The main difference you'll be able to tell is the accent, which changes. Helen grew up and stayed in Louisiana? Alabama. And then, of course, when Andy came of age, they're twin sisters, she moved to New York and worked to become a big,
tech billionaire.
A tech billionaire.
And then Helen stayed in Alabama to be a school teacher.
Yeah.
So I thought that they were actually portraying Andy or Cassandra to be the flawed sort of evil twin in a way who held on to a thread of integrity throughout.
I didn't get it. I got that as somebody who was wronged completely.
Because she said they used to make fun of these out of touch rich people, and then she felt like her sister ran off and just began embracing that persona that was fake in order to get ahead in life.
I think that's more nuanced than they gave it, because she loses out in the end anyways to the billionaire. So there's some social commentary here that's thinly veiled in places. There is definitely, like, if you don't like the kind of the identity politics, there is a little bit of there, but I feel like the pacing, the mystery, and you have to go into it knowing that what you're watching is a murder mystery. If you engage your mind that that's the type of movie you're watching and you don't look for the other stuff, it won't bother you as much. But I do believe that handicaps them in a way. When I hear them talk about wokeness and what did she say in the beginning of the movie?
Everything's so woke.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
When they say that,
That was Birdie's character in reference to her tweeting an ethnic slur and then getting reviewed for that and saying wokeness has just gone too far these days.
And here's the
which
problem.
is a bit of a caricature, obviously.
Yeah. Here's what Ryan Johnson is like that. He's annoying on Twitter. You see, if you know who he is, his personality comes out in the writing of this movie. You have to hope that the pacing, the strong mystery elements, and the storytelling are enough to make you forgive that. If that bothers you, that will bother you in this movie. It didn't.
Yeah, there were little lines that like sanctimonious kind of.
Yes.
Don't confuse saying your first thought with saying truth or whatever.
That was probably the most
like,
heavy-handed out of all of it because it felt out of place from the actor. He was still in character as like he hadn't revealed himself yet, so I felt like he did a disservice to his character by saying something so brazen like that when it doesn't feel like something that he would have said to somebody there at that juncture. Mm-hmm. What would be the weakest element to you if there was a weak element to you?
I would say that's it. I would say it's not being able to you said that Edward Norton showed great restraint. I would say that Ryan Johnson did not show great restraint in trying to make commentary.
But
that's him. That's like,
I also think they should not have included the context of the pandemic and masking.
I like it. I like it.
You do?
Yep.
Because
I
think this won't age well going forward where we have these movies referencing the pandemic and it's like social mores. Like we have Birdie's character wearing basically a fishnet mask.
Right.
She's like
I like that. It's making fun of Alyssa Milano, who did that.
Well, she had the crochet. She had the crochet.
And Lana Del Rey. It's not exactly though.
But
it's
also
just making fun of
it's making fun of
her for being an anti-masker.
I don't think it is. I think it's making fun of like they made fun of like Newsom and Whitmer and all these people who are like, we have to lock down, but I'm going to go to this party and I'm going to do this thing. And they made fun of the vaccine with what is this? Don't worry about it.
But that wasn't. Was that a vaccine or what was that they?
It was
shot
a nondescript
all of their throats.
It was a nondescript health solution.
Beginning.
But I said, like, all they had to do was eliminate that storyline from it, and then they don't have to do that at all, and it doesn't matter.
But they shot it during all this stuff, so like that was probably like why it's on an island and why you're able to do it.
Then I guess you could say that the best thing is that they didn't do more of it. That they limited it. I thought
it
the
was
beginning.
There was like commentary from the other direction where he's like, this is all kind of dumb, isn't it? And he was making fun of them, and maybe it felt like they're making fun of us, but they're not. Yeah. And he did it in a way to where it goes either way. You know what I mean? Like, but the whole like, I'm going to shoot this into your body. You have no idea what it is. You have no idea if it's tested. But you're good. You're good now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was going to crop up in the story later on, that it was related to Clear or something, and it wasn't.
I thought so too, but it's kind of funnier that it didn't.
Yeah. So
also, a very strong part of this movie is Daryl.
The guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Noah Sagan.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that.
So,
I just thought he was charming.
Yeah.
You can watch this movie if you've never seen the original Knives Out, because I only saw the original Knives Out once, and I remember like nothing about it except for Blanc's accent. Literally, that's all I remember from it.
A donut.
Do you remember liking it or disliking it?
I remember it being also well paced. Yeah. That was my number one takeaway, and it was at a time where I was like, why wasn't Ryan Johnson doing this rather than making Star Wars and talking about Star Wars on Twitter all the time? So. You're not going to have to go see this in theaters. You will be able to see this on streaming at Christmas, I believe.
I thought it was 1 week.
Is it a week?
I thought it was. I know. It's
I was under the impression it was only a week.
Yeah. I thought it was in theaters for a week, but then it comes out on streaming.
Yes,
you might be right.
By Christmas.
Yeah.
So
that's what I meant.
It's. I think Daniel Craig is great in his role, and he's kind of the. What's interesting is like I talk about Janelle Monáe's character being what I consider to be the standout performance here, but what you do with what you'd consider Blanc's character to be the backbone of it. If he doesn't work, none of it works. She could have given the greatest performance in history, but if she doesn't have the eccentricity of his character and the build of his character to work off of, it all falls apart. Even with strong storytelling, if you don't have that anchor back to who's supposed to solve everything and how it's supposed to work out, and he shepherds her along, but then she, of course, figures she's magically good at mystery solving, and that part was a little bit annoying. But I will say that she at least showed a little bit of like, I can't do this, and she starts drinking. Like, she wasn't just perfect and great in every situation. She at least showed a little bit of vulnerability there.
More like he just understood what she was strong at and put her in that position to do it. Like, she's a teacher of children, so she's observant, and these people are basically just children, so she's like reporting on their behavior, and he's like, you did great, and she's like, did I didn't know any of this was relevant. Like, I thought that was very funny.
The strength of Daniel Craig's performance confirmed for me all the more that they really didn't need to push his queer baiting in the marketing for this movie.
That was actually
completely irrelevant.
It didn't matter at all.
So he wears an ascot.
Well, and he's got a partner.
Salmon.
He's got a partner
who calls him by his last name.
Yeah, but exactly. Calls him by his last name.
Should have called him Benny.
So that doesn't really make sense.
So
you're trying to queer bait with this character.
I do think that there's a strong enough character there that they could make more of these if this does well enough. Maybe you stick to streaming for it. Maybe, assuming he can't get the same cinematographer back. I know they work together a lot. You said right.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it needs the greatest cinematography with strong pacing, strong camera work, even if it's not the greatest landscape or the greatest most.
I think that makes it a cut above.
Yeah.
Like, that's what sets it apart, is that there's so much attention to that detail, and that shows in his writing. Like, everything that is in the movie, like storytelling wise, is telegraphed from the beginning. Like, you could figure it out, but you just don't know what you're looking at.
They should have gotten
like a real mystery.
Kenneth Branagh should have hired Rian Johnson to write the Perot movies that he's been doing, and
direct them.
And I mean, I don't know. I feel like Branagh's a strong enough director.
He's a very strong director, but those movies lack something.
They feel very studio, like somebody at the studio just loves that character and is like, just has the power to make it a thing, even though nobody cares. Yeah. Like I saw Death on the Nile, and all I remember was Gal Gadot being very charming, and the crime at the end being basically exactly what I thought it would be. Given the fact
they spend money on the wrong things. I don't know what it is how Rian Johnson can make a movie like Knives Out that's, in my opinion, a borderline masterpiece for like $40 million, but they make what's the second, Murder on the Nile?
Death on the Nile.
Yeah. Murder on the Orient Express. Yeah. Death on the Nile for like $120 million, but they can't do what he does.
I think they spent more money on cast too. There's
good cast in both of these.
On Death of the on the Nile.
Yeah, there was a lot of
That's the same thing for Amsterdam. It was just a dumpster fire of budgeting.
And that one, I don't know how long ago that one was made, and how much of that was on location, how much of that was CGI.
For Death on the Nile?
Death on the Nile.
A lot of CGI.
Yeah. So there were some good establishing shots there, and then cut to like really poorly done monotone green screen.
There's some bad green screen in this movie too, though.
What parts?
Edward Norton in The Glass Onion, I could see the green outline around him.
Okay.
Also, and then when they were when he was having coffee with Helen, they were green outline.
Coffee with Helen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't notice that at all.
Also, the big mountain behind them was very much looked like it was laid in there when they were coming.
That.
Yeah, when they were. It looks like every mountain that's ever been laid behind like a TV show that's supposed to take place in Colorado but isn't filmed in Colorado. But in general, you don't spend enough time there. You spend most of it inside anyways. Yeah. And it's just very, very good. So if you can forgive Rian Johnson for his destruction of Star Wars and his inability to keep his mouth shut in the lead up to, hey, I'm just saying, actions have consequences, and if you can't keep your mouth shut in the lead up to your release, you get what's coming to you. If strong cinematography, strong pacing, tight storytelling are things that you enjoy, and you can forgive a bunch of actors that are annoying on Twitter, and some.
I personally like bad storytelling,
and you can also put up with some kind of annoying social messaging. I think that you will enjoy this movie. Would you give it a recommend?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, that's maybe that might be the most unanimous one we've ever had.
It's equal with Bullet Train in my mind.
Okay.
Equally good.
All
Bullet
right.
Train is so good.
Don't you think they're on par with each other?
I think Bullet Train's better.
Bullet Train is better. Yes.
Bullet Train's better.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.